is basically FlexiCapture for Mailroom, and this is a virtual machine that I'm running through. So basically, FlexiCapture for Mailroom is a module. It's basically part of FlexiCapture, just like for invoices, it's a module. For Mailroom, it's a module. ABM, it's a module. Flexi Layout, it's a module. So all the features you have in FlexiCapture are included, and then you just add this additional module to run what you want. In this case, this is a Mailroom solution. This is actually will be more of a classifier type of thing. So what I'll do is I'll cover the various type of classifier they have, and then I'll show you how it sort of works with FlexiCapture. Okay, so basically FlexiCapture classification comes with a couple of things here. You can see there's an ID designer, there's a cluster designer, and a classification designer. Easiest option to do is to first go into clustering designer. This is basically a simple auto clustering. So what it'll do is you tell it the images, it'll load them in, and it'll automatically try to classify what it should be. And the way it does that, it's going to look at the way the words are at, the way the form's designed. It's going to be very simple, but it's a good, nice demo that you can show your customers and say, okay, let's see what kind of classification we can get here. Okay, so I have a training set of banking, contracts, ID cards, invoices, and letters already pre-made. I'll just click OK here, and all you need to do is click Start. There isn't really too much to do with this. It'll load the images in, and then it'll cluster them. So roughly about 45 images. It's going to cluster them to roughly about, let's see when it's done, roughly about, I think 40 or so here. So basically it's saying of those 45 images, we can classify them as 40 different types. This probably isn't true in most cases, but this is a simple classification that you can just run your images to see how much you can get right. Okay. From there, you can actually switch over to the classification designer and actually better improve the classification if you want. But for right now, let's look at what we have here. You can see over here, biotech is separate from this cluster 39, which is more of a starlight imaging. And it's probably classifying it differently because of the logo up here and the various words over here. So it's not doing a full text OCR. It's more looking at how the form looks different. So a logo might be different here. There might be more of a paragraph over here versus something else. It's a very quick classification type that it uses. Okay, so it's just doing a quick OCR on the page and seeing how it sort of looks. So for example, you can see over here a ID card or a passport, I think, or this over here, same thing. They're just different little designs to it, and so it's classifying it differently. Okay, so this is something you use to run on your images to see how many different clusters you have. In most cases, what you're going to be doing is probably going to be using this, this classification designer here. And what you have here is I have it somewhere loaded already, but what you do is you just basically load the images in and create your classes. So for example, you go over here and add a document type. I have contracts over here. I have letters. I can add various other document types in here if I want. Okay. Once you're done, all you're basically doing is train the project. It will usually train the project, and then it will say, okay, so these should be contracts, these should be letters, and I'll run these. Okay. So it's already been trained. That's why you can see over here it says it's letters, and over here it's contracts. Okay. Let's say, for example, we want to run to make sure it confirms it as that. So I can over here and it's classified. By classified, it says it's contracts. So it actually does know that. And it's 98% confident it is. If you look on this right-hand side, you can see that's 98% confident that's a contract, and the other percentage is it might think it's a letter. Okay. The reason for this is you can actually have different options here. Let me see if I can go over here. You can use this for visual and content classifiers. So visual was basically what we saw in the beginning, where it looks at the layout of the document. You can go further and say use content. Content actually would do the full text OCR, and from there it'll decide what it was. Okay. So if I go over here and click on highlights character features, it was these little keywords that it thought it was a contract. So that's highlighted. If you wanted to modify these words or make one a little stronger than the other, there is an option over here, and you can just add different variations to these text rules if you want. and how you want to provide it and stuff like that. Okay, so that's just basically it. You add the different document types, and then from there you can set up different things. So for contracts, I can say it's for visual or not visual, use it for content. Once you have all these little variations in here, run the match. Once you're done, you run the classifiers to see what it saw. So for example, I can just run these over here and this is classified. It sees these are all contracts, and if I look at the various little highlights features here, you can see this is the word stuff I was using. So over here, these are the words there. If I go letters, let me see what happens here. Classify. Same thing here. So various little variations in it. So letters, it knows if you use the word deer, it's most likely going to be a letter. Over here, I don't see any words here. I think it might be classify. There we go. So same thing here, use the word deer. So certain keywords it knows based on all the documents you put in here. Okay. The idea of this product is supposed to be a simple thing where basically a user can drop images in here, run the classifiers, and then adjust it if they need to. Okay. And unlike you having to be a FlexiCapture administrator, you don't need to go into the actual FlexiCapture to run anything. All you do is you set whatever parameters here and you save it. And from there, FlexiCapture will actually get these settings. It's actually pretty smart where it's set up so that you actually don't have to dig too deep into FlexiCapture to do this. Okay. So the way it's integrated into FlexiCapture, now that I showed you this part, is basically it uses web services. Okay. So let's say, for example, I will go over to my stations and I will scan my documents in. I'll click scan. It's actually pulling images from this sample folder here for me, and it's actually assembling these automatically for me. So there's about 45 different documents here. Okay, and all I need to do is send it to FlexiCapture. Okay, so it's sent to FlexiCapture. If I look over here in task now, you can see it's processing the images. So we'll let it process the images. And this is now all on FlexiCapture side. The way this sort of works is that there's actually an additional workflow that when images come in, it actually will send it to the classifier, and the classifier will detect what type of documents it has based on that project you created here. So is it a letter, is it a contract, could it be something else, okay? And it just identifies the documents. If you want to go a step further, you can use the FlexiCapture features and capture additional information. So you can say, you know what, now that I know this is a contract, I'm going to extract more information. Since this is going to take a while, I'm just going to show you what the end result will sort of look like, okay? So, so after it's been assembled and recognized, what the actual classifier does is it actually creates these little properties over here that says, okay, this is a banking document, okay? This over here is a banking document. Let's go back over here. This is an invoice, okay? If I go in here, you can actually see that, you know, as soon as this document gets clicked on, it's taking longer than it should be. But basically there we go. So there's a drop-down menu here that basically it can extract whatever it wants here. This isn't part of the classifier. This part is actually FlexiCapture. So what we did here is based on the rule is based on what the classifier set the classification as, go ahead and set this document type here for us. So all the classifier does is set what the document type is. From there, we can do anything else you want. So if you wanted to, you can extract the first name over here. Let me see. The first name, the last name, the state, whatever you want here, based on the classification value. So the idea here is, if you look at this project properties, we actually, after our recognition, there's a classification stage. And all this classification stage does is, it sends it to the classification project, and then it runs the classification project you have. It classifies as something, and based off of that, we will give it a result you want here. So it's pretty simple for the user because once you set it up, all they need to do is if they get a new document that comes in, they just need to open up their project, set the new document type. So for example, I will set up invoices. And then all you need to do is load your images in here. and then run the classification here. And it will start identifying different things. All you need to do now is set the new document type. So in this case, we have an invoice here. I think I have an invoice somewhere around here. So here's an invoice that we have ahead of time. Okay, that's pretty much it from a high-level view of the classification or the FlexCapture for Mailroom. It's basically one part of a module for FlexCapture that you can actually expand on by capturing more stuff if you want once it's classified the information. Okay. Are there any questions?